Um, Welcome to the lesson. My name is Kieran Lonergan. I'm the founder of Understand IELTS. Thanks for watching. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how Anki flashcards make it easy to learn vocabulary and grammar. So in my lesson last week, I talked about why Anki is so important, and I showed you all how all language learning experts see it as their secret weapon, basically. They all use Anki to learn multiple languages really quickly. So hopefully that convinced you that you need to start using Anki. And if you haven't seen that lesson yet, I suggest you do that after this one. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how Anki works. So as I just mentioned, first I'll tell you how Anki works. What is it specifically that makes Anki so effective? Then I'll show you a demonstration of how I use Anki so that you can get familiar with the application. And then I will give you some homework in preparation for the next lesson. So, how does Anki work? As I explained in the last lesson, Anki is an application for your computer and phone that allows you to make flashcards. A flashcard is just a card with a question on the front and the answer on the back, except this is a digital version. So let's look at an example. So again, we have a question on the front and an answer on the back. And here is our example. This is a flashcard that my students made, that one of my students made in Anki. She wanted to remember what preposition comes after the word interested, as you can see here. So this is the question. And if I hit show answer down here, I will see the answer, which looks like this. And here is the answer. I'm interested in dogs. If I got that answer correct, I just hit here, good, and Anki will show me that card again in 1 day. As you can see, it says 1D here. And that means 1 day. If it was easy, I click this button and Anki will show me that card again in 4 days. If it was hard, I can click here to see the card in 10 minutes. And if I got the answer wrong, I will repeat the card in 1 minute. And here we have another card to learn a specific piece of vocabulary. With the question on the front, what word goes in this gap? And we have a definition down here to help us remember the correct word. And here is the answer. Instead, I will try to make friends instead of enemies. So that's basically what a flashcard looks like. Each of these is a card, and every time I test myself with a card, this is called a review. So I've just reviewed 2 flashcards. One to memorize interested in, and the other to memorize the word instead. Now, to understand how flashcards work, we need to know the science behind memory, and specifically how to never forget, which is obviously what we're aiming for. And if we were able to never forget, it would make learning languages very easy. So that is our aim. Now, there are many scientific studies about memory and forgetting, and they all generally say the same thing. if you want to move a piece of new information into your long-term memory so that you never forget it, you need to do this. First of all, you must recall it from memory, not simply reread the information. Some students think that to learn something, like a new word, they just need to see it again and again and again. No. What you need to do is remember it again and again and again. In other words, you need to recall it from memory. On top of that, it must be difficult to recall, but not impossible. If your brain has to work really hard to remember something and you remember it, then that memory next time will be much stronger. And when is something most difficult to recall? Well, obviously, it's the moment just before you forget it. So, if you had a system to recall new vocabulary from memory, when it's difficult to recall just before forgetting it, well, that would help you to never forget that vocabulary. Anki does this because it decides when you review your cards, so that you review that new piece of vocabulary just before you forget it. And that's basically what makes Anki so powerful. And it does this using something called spaced repetition. Now, spaced repetition is just a fancy way to say that the time between reviews will increase and increase and increase. So let's imagine my student makes this card, this one here that you're looking at, on the 3rd of January. So I've just made that card in Anki. It's the 3rd of January. Anki will now make me review this card again on the same day, then the next day, 2 days later, then a few days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 weeks later, 2 months, and then 6 months later, and so on and so forth. The time between reviews gets longer and longer. So just before you forget this information, your brain has to work really hard to remember it again. And that's essentially how Anki works. So over the course of a year, I've maybe reviewed this card 10 times, and it's taken a total of about 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. But now I will never forget that I need to say interested in instead of interested at, or what I was saying before. And that's why excuse me, and that's why Gabriel Weiner, who wrote this wonderful book, and that's how I kind of discovered the power of flashcards. That's why he says that Anki is flashcards on steroids. It drives information deep into your long-term memory and supercharges memorization. We saw that quote last week, but I just thought it would be good to bring it up again today. So let me just show you a quick demonstration of the application itself. So I'm going to end this presentation and open my Anki application for you to take a look. Give me a moment, please. Okay, so this is my my Anki application on my computer. I also have it on my phone. It looks very similar. And These are my decks right here. These names down here are my decks. A deck is like a folder. It's where you put your flashcards. They help you to organize your flashcards. As you can see, I have many decks. I've been using Anki to learn about birds, about music. I'm learning Portuguese at the moment, as well as Spanish. I've also been using flashcards to learn about science and history and that kind of thing. Here you can see that I have, well, here you can see the flashcards that are due. These are the flashcards that I need to review today. And in this column, you can see the new flashcards that I need to review today. So if I made some flashcards today, then they would appear in this column. So let's take a look at the my Spanish deck to see some of the cards that I've made to learn Spanish. So here we have the question on the front and the answer here. I made this card to learn the imperative tense with this exclamation mark telling me that it was the imperative that I needed. So here we have another card. Esta es la. Okay, and I think the word that I need to complete this sentence is pauta. Okay, good. Now, if I click this here, good, because I got it correct, you can see that I will see this card now in 7.1 months. And if I found it easy, Anki would show me this card in 1.5 years. If I found it hard, I would be showing this card again in 3 days. And if I have forgotten the piece of information, if I have forgotten what the word pauta means and how to use it, then I would click again and I would be shown that card again today. And here we have another flashcard, la pila. Obviously, it ran out of battery, so the word I'm looking for is the word in Spanish. That means that something runs out. And this is the word here, se agotó. Okay. Let me just show you a couple more so you get an idea of how your review session might look for you. Okay, so that's basically what you will ideally be doing once you make flashcards and start reviewing them in Anki. So let's return to my presentation. Next lesson, I will show you how to make your first flashcards. It's not always obvious how to make them. There's a good way to make flashcards and there are bad ways to make flashcards. If you make bad flashcards, it's kind of a waste of time because you won't really find it easy to remember the information. If you make good flashcards, it will be really efficient and you can learn many things really quickly. To end, I'm just going to give you a bit of homework. I'd like you to download the Anki app on your phone and your computer. Now, it seems that there are 2 Anki applications available. The original one has this logo. This is the one I have. I highly recommend it, but to get it on your phone, it will cost you 25 euros. There's also a copycat version, which looks like this. It's free, and it basically does the same thing, but apparently it's not as user-friendly. It has more bugs and things like that. So the choice is yours. You can download either of those. I do, however, recommend the original version, just because that's the one that I have always used, and I know that it works. Okay, next, I'd like you to create an Anki account. You can do that by just typing Anki into Google and creating an account on the website. And then use that account to log in on your different devices so that they are synchronized, so that when you review flashcards on your phone, it will automatically update on your computer. And finally, I'd like you to create a list of 3 words that you want to remember in English and 3 recent grammar corrections that you've been given by a teacher that you want to remember. And we will use those in the next lesson when you will learn how to start making your own flashcards. And that's all for today. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and hit like if you found this lesson helpful. And finally, I'd just like to mention that my Writing Task 2 course is available